On Saturday, US Border Patrol agents killed 37-year-old Alex Pretti in Minneapolis, the second US citizen killed by federal agents this month after Renee Good. Despite enormous public outcry, the Trump administration originally doubled down, describing Pretti as a domestic terrorist and fueling anxieties about the prospect of further unrest in Minnesota. However, on Monday evening, following massive backlash, Trump staged a rhetorical climb down. And on Tuesday, Border Patrol Commander Greg Bavino was sent home and locked out of his social media accounts, to be replaced by Trump's border czar, Tom Homan. So in this video, we're going to explain what's happening in Minnesota, Trump's apparent U-turn, and what might happen next. We're in the process of clearing out our store, so we're running a fire sale right now. Using code FIRESALE, you can get 40% off all of our posters, notebooks, calendars, magnets, keyrings, Brexit the Colouring Book, the lot. That offer ends very soon, so click the link in the description for more. So let's start by explaining what's happening in Minnesota. In early December, the US launched ICE raids in two cities in Minnesota, Minneapolis and St. Paul, under the name Operation Metro Surge, which was then expanded to all of Minnesota. ICE has since arrested dozens of people in the two cities, including a 20-year-old US citizen who offered to show agents his passport, a 55-year-old observer who asked an officer if they were ICE, and a 5-year-old preschool boy and his father. The US has now deployed 3,000 ICE agents across Minnesota in total, 5 times the size of the state police force, with clashes between protesters and federal agents becoming more frequent and more violent. Videos show officers using force and chemical irritants against protesters, including at close range. And according to ACLED, 30% of all migration-related protests in Minnesota now involve physical confrontations between demonstrators and law enforcement officers, the highest rate recorded in any major ICE operation. This month, tensions escalated dramatically with the deaths of 2 US citizens. On the 7th of January, 37-year-old unarmed woman Renee Good was fatally shot 3 times by an ICE officer, and then last weekend, 37-year-old intensive care nurse Alex Pretti was killed by US Border Patrol, another federal agency that's been working alongside ICE after putting himself between a federal agent and a woman that the agent had pushed to the ground. A group of 7 masked agents tackled Pretti to the ground and beat him, before firing 10 shots at him in less than 5 seconds. Video footage suggests that Pretti, a licensed gun owner, was originally carrying a handgun, as permitted by Minnesota law, but that gun was removed by a federal agent from Pretti's waistband before he was shot. Immediately after the shooting, Minneapolis tried to send state police to the scene to investigate, but Police Chief Brian O'Hara said the officers were refused access by federal law enforcement. They then obtained a search warrant from a state court and returned to the site, but were again blocked from investigating by federal officers. Minnesota has since sued the Trump administration for its deployment of ICE troops in the state, with a federal judge set to hear arguments about whether the deployment amounts to a federal invasion of Minnesota. Anyway, in the immediate aftermath of Pretti's death, the Trump administration doubled down in its defense of federal agents operating in Minnesota. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem claimed, without evidence, that Pretti wished to inflict harm and that he was brandishing a weapon, despite the fact that video footage shows that he was disarmed beforehand. Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bavino suggested that Pretti wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement, and senior presidential advisor Stephen Miller called him a would-be assassin, again without any evidence regarding Pretti's motives. Both Noem and Miller also described Pretti as a domestic terrorist, which is, and this shouldn't really be a partisan question, not true under any reasonable definition of the term. Anyway, while Trump wasn't quite as rhetorically combative as his officials, he still posted a picture of Pretti's gun to Truth Social, asking, quote, "What is this all about?" before launching into a rant about allegations of fraud in Minnesota and saying, "Let our ICE patriots do their job." Unsurprisingly, this sparked a furious backlash. Thousands of Minnesotans took to the street to protest in freezing weather. Hundreds of businesses closed in a general strike, and Democrats threatened a government shutdown unless ICE was reformed. In a rare show of public dissent, even a number of Republicans signaled that they were uneasy with Trump's handling of the situation. For instance, Chris Madel, a Republican candidate for the governor of Minnesota, suspended his campaign, saying, "I cannot support the National Republicans' stated retribution on the citizens of our state." Similarly, in an interview with CBS, Oklahoma's Republican governor, Kevin Stitt, said, quote, "I think the death of Americans is causing deep concern over federal tactics." Even Greg Abbott, the Republican governor of Texas and staunch Trump ally, suggested that the Trump administration should recalibrate its approach to ICE. And this looks like it was enough to force Trump into a U-turn, if not on the content of his immigration policy, then at least on its presentation. On Monday, for instance, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt suggested that Trump did not consider Pretti a domestic terrorist, and that Trump would agree to a full investigation. Similarly, Trump's Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche was caught backpedaling on Fox News, saying, quote, "I don't think anyone thinks that they were comparing what happened on Saturday to the legal definition of domestic terrorism." And Trump himself took a conspicuously conciliatory tone on Truth Social on Monday, announcing that he'd had very good calls with both Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey. There have also been some reports that Greg Bovino, the Border Patrol commander who's become the face of Trump's immigration crackdown, is now being withdrawn from Minnesota to be replaced by Trump's so-called border czar, Tom Homan, who was himself quietly sidelined after apparently getting caught up in an FBI sting operation. While Homan still has hardline views on immigration, he apparently prefers targeted operations to the sort of broad public presence that we've seen from ICE recently, and probably has a better chance of cooperating with state-level Democrats, given that he served under Obama. So what happens next in all of this? Well, Trump is caught between a rock and a hard place here. Properly reining in ICE would probably amount to a politically embarrassing U-turn and risk irritating his MAGA base. But polls suggest that most Americans, including the vast majority of independents, are really souring on Trump's immigration policies. Trump's net approval when it comes to his handling of immigration has fallen from basically evens in October to an all-time low of -12 today. And this number will probably fall further as new polls carried out since Pretti's death begin to come out. This has dragged down Trump's own approval rating too, which now sits at a record low of about -15, worse than any previous president at this point, including Trump 1.0. With these sorts of numbers, the GOP is at risk of a wipeout in the midterms. Although whether Trump's tentative U-turn can actually arrest this electoral decline remains to be seen. Now, if you stuck around this long, chances are you're passionate about learning and bettering yourself through knowledge, just like us. You're obviously a thinker, and Brilliant is the perfect learning platform to unlock your full potential. That's because Brilliant pushes you to excel in maths and computer science with visual interactive problem solving and personalized experience. Their website and app is designed to be highly effective, offering the perfect mix of interactive problems, motivating challenges, and encouragement to keep you moving forward. Here you can build genuine understanding and reach serious learning goals. On Brilliant, you'll click with concepts you used to struggle with. Their ever-expanding library covers everything from timeless topics in maths and science to cutting-edge concepts in AI, quantum, and beyond. Wherever you are on your learning journey, Brilliant will start you at the perfect level to grow and achieve your goals at your own pace, with each course being crafted by an award-winning team of teachers, researchers, and professors from MIT, Harvard, Stanford, Caltech, Google, and more. So if you want to start learning with confidence and become an even better problem solver, then you can try Brilliant for free for a full 30 days. Just go to brilliant.org/TLDR, scan the QR code on screen, or click the link in the description. Brilliant is also giving our viewers 20% off their annual premium subscription, which gives you unlimited daily access to everything on Brilliant.